Hey guys, welcome to
live mic, hot mic.
another episode of Brokers Open Podcast. We are here with our good friend, Donnie Hathaway. Of course, I am here with my other good friend, because I have two, the big guy, Matt Vi. I'm Dr. Ben Spears, the ambassador of flow of just about every podcast I've ever been on.
Right.
And you know, we got a good one today.
Yep, absolutely.
Right, and so this is gonna be like a two-parter, right? So we're gonna start this part one, part two. I'll just throw it out, guys. Listen, I made a mistake. We shot part two. We shot part two before we shot part one. I'm authentic.
You can do that?
True to myself. And we had these notes, and I read the wrong notes.
Hey, he's like, notes, smotes.
Yeah. What's a note? I'm gonna take notes.
Well, not now. You've been through like 96 years of school. You got like 14 degrees, and
I hear it and I learn it and I move on. So Matt, how you doing? And then introduce our guest.
Absolutely, positively fantastic. Excited that Donnie Hathaway is here. Donnie Hathaway's with Berkshire Hathaway. No ownership rights in that, right? Different Berkshire Hathaway.
I'm trying.
But Donnie Hathaway, he's in Palm Harbor, Florida. We'll get into that in a couple minutes. But so this is Donnie. He's got a podcast which Ben talked about. But before we dig into all of that, let's just talk about Donnie for just a second here, right? Because Donnie's a cool guy with a cool background, and he's done a lot of things in real estate. He's been in real estate how long?
5 years, almost. Yep. Yeah, over 5 years now.
Yeah. So he's been in real estate 5 years, and what he's done is he's found a place that's home for him, to use a real estate pun in this, and how he generates business. And we're going to dig into that. But before we get there, tell us a little bit about your backstory. Are you from Palm Harbor? Is that right?
So I'm from the Palm Harbor area. And first of all, thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, of course.
On the podcast. This is a lot of fun. But so from like the Pinellas County area, kind of grew up in Pinellas Park, Oldsmar, and then spent some time in Palm Harbor as well. So I know the area well, and I've seen obviously a lot of change over these years as well.
Yeah,
I bet. So why real estate? Right, you read a book, didn't you? Wasn't there a book?
Yeah,
that kind of
good question. I have a degree in biology. Was thinking I would do something in the medical field. Right. Started a master's program and realized like school was not for me. I'm done. Done with that. I need to find a career. And so did some research. Was talking to a friend, and he was looking at commercial real estate at the time.
Oh yeah, nice.
And I'm like, okay, let me look at real estate as residential real estate. It's you set your own hours. You're in business for yourself basically. So I'm interested. And at that point, I was looking for something different, and like you said, I read that book. So I read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah, such
that
a
was
great book.
I remember being at the library, like looking for a book on real estate or looking for a book on mindset, something along those lines. And I had a couple different options, and then ended up settling on Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Thank God you grabbed that one.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
just kind of crazy that worked out. But I read that book, and it was like, whoa. Completely opened up my eyes and mind to, a different way of thinking and that sort of stuff. And that kind of led into real estate and just doing a bunch of research into that career.
Yeah, sweet. And so you dug in, and you took kind of a traditional path on real estate, right? Because you tried a bunch of different ways of prospecting and all that kind of stuff. And you had a network, right? You wanted to plug into that network, but you tried a bunch of different ways to generate business, right? So tell us about the stuff that you did that some people out there might be winning with, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
But if they're not, that's why we want to kind of tell your story of how you became a boss. So.
Yeah, 100%. Like all of that stuff works. Like
right.
the FSBOs, the expireds, and that's like to me that's a traditional way of going about real estate business. Like if most brokerages or most coaches are gonna talk to you and say this is the way you do real estate. You call a for sale by owners, you call in expires, you do all these cold calls, from 9 to 11, and then you want appointments in the afternoon, right? So I went through all of that, and struggled through it, had some successes and some losses, but ultimately I wasn't enjoying that stuff, that way of doing business, right? And so that led me into the podcast, like you talked about, and just finding a different way of generating business, but doing it the way that I wanted to do it, and something that I was passionate about.
So you do a ton of reading, right? I mean, so you absorb a lot of books. So tell us a little bit about how, because I think there's a lot of people in real estate that are struggling with some of the answers and don't realize how much of them are available on cool ass things like this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
I know you read my book, Short Stories by a Short Guy.
So other than that book, so there's been some other books that have really influenced what you're doing overall with your business, right? So what are some of those books? Because that kind of led you on this path to where you are, right?
Yeah, reading has been a big part of it, and I think the Rich Dad Poor Dad kind of set that off of like, okay, I need to better myself in order to be better for my business and for the business to grow and that sort of stuff. So yeah, like you said, I've read through a bunch of books. One of them that stands out is the Go-Giver, which I know you guys are a big proponents of, and that's just a great way of just going about life and business as well. But it just makes you a better person reading that book.
And that's you make a great point there too. Like when you were talking about these different types of ways of prospecting and generating business, and you're saying like, gosh, I wasn't enjoying it. It just I had some successes, I had some losses, but kind of at the end of the day, it was like, man, like I don't want to wake up necessarily and start doing that all over again the next day. And then we talk about the Go-Giver, and Matt and I've met Bob Berg, the author, that whenever we talked to him about the Go-Giver, homie was like
all in,
like smile on his face, like you could tell like that was like in his soul and in the core of him, and that's really and that's why he's so successful. Right, and that's where I think from what you're doing, the reason that you're having that success is because you're finally at that point now where it's like, gosh, like I get up and I'm like jazzed. I know that when I get up every morning, right, just even coming here and doing this podcast and and anything else in our business, I'm like stoked. I'm ready to go. I'm like, man, I'm beating that alarm clock. I'm like, I'll see you tomorrow, alarm clock. And I think that's so special.
It is.
And I hope that everybody finds that.
Yeah, you have to. Real estate's too hard to not.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
you can't.
100%.
And along the line, I think it's great that people learn what they don't want to do. Right?
Yes.
Because that really helps you appreciate what you do want to do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think you have to go through that.
You do.
Yeah.
So there's even like new construction. You did some new construction, right? And you worked with a really predominant builder. You want to talk a little bit about that and what you kind of took away from it?
Yeah. So that was early on in my career. Like I think it was two or 2.5 years in when that started. So one of my mentors from our office, Lorna Short, she kind of started all of that and had that connection and stuff. And then, through our relationship that we had from the day one of me starting at the office, she brought me on as, her partner in working that, that deal. And, we learned a lot of stuff. It's a different side of the business doing new construction. And custom homes, at that price point too. So,
because there's a nice price point, right?
Yeah. Million plus for most of them, in two communities that they were marketing. So
two completely different communities.
Yeah, completely different communities.
And they didn't have a social media presence or anything, right? For the most part.
Nothing. Yeah.
Right.
So we were kind of in charge of doing all of that marketing and stuff for them, and so we had some success, but ultimately, things didn't quite work out the way we thought it would, and but we learned. I kept telling Lorna in the beginning, and I'm just happy and grateful to be a part of that because no matter what happens, there's going to be so much that we're going to learn and be able to take with us to our the next deal or the next business, the next opportunity.
Yep.
Yeah, and you had a lot of success in there too, right? What you did kind of brought that situation around a little bit, right? So they went from not a lot of sales to some sales in a relatively short period of time, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So there were some struggles early on with those two developments, and we put together I think like 7 or 8 deals. In those first I think like 6 months or so. Yeah. So we definitely had some success, and we were excited for what the potential and stuff could have been for those communities, and they're still great communities. So it's still cool to see them be developed and be just another another place for people to call home in the community.
Yep, another notch in the old handle of your 6-shooter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so killer, and we love that you were able to help out with that, because we know that brought you to what we actually want to talk about, and we're gonna dig into this on another podcast, right? But we're gonna talk about about your podcast on your actual podcast on another podcast.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. How many times can I say podcast in one sentence?
In one podcast.
That's right. So, but tell us the name of it, right? And give us a little teaser about what the podcast is all about.
Yeah, so it's called Palm Harbor Local, and we sit down with local business owners to tell their story and kind of what they're about.
I love that. And you get business from it, right?
Yeah, we've made a lot of great connections in the community, and my network has grown tremendously. We've been doing it for 8 months now.
Yeah. And you're turning local famous, right?
Local famous.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
Love
the
it.
idea, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, cool deal, Bill. Well, let's dig into that a little bit in a podcast soon, okay?
Yeah, let's do that. Before we get off of here, right? Because we've kind of talked about Donnie Hathaway, the real estate agent. Let's say that some of the agents who are listening, say, gosh, I know some people that are moving to the Tampa Bay area, Palm Harbor. Tell them how they would get in touch with you if you wanted to send some referrals. Might be a great way to make a connection. Should you have somebody here who is going to move some other place, right? That you don't know an agent, right? And so let's make those connections. How can people get in touch with you? Kind of learn more about you and maybe send some business back and forth.
Yeah, so I'm big on Instagram. They can follow me at Donnie.Hathaway is my handle there on Instagram. My website is Donnie Hathaway. You can go on there and kind of learn more. DonnieHathaway.com. So you can go on there and learn a bit more about me and my story, kind of what we're about. But a simple way is Instagram. Reach out to me on Instagram. I've made a lot of great connections with agents kind of across the country through that platform already. So
nice. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Well, guys, I'll put all that information in the description below, so take a look at that. Reach out to Donnie either way and just say, hey, what's up, dude?
Yeah, right. Let's just chat.
How are you so lucky to get to talk to Ben and Matt?
Is that what it is?
Matt, anything else before I close it up?
No, man, that's good. I'm looking forward to the podcast with talking about your podcast, our podcast, and we'll share podcasts.
Yeah. If you're listening to this podcast on one of these podcast networks where they have all these other podcasts, like iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Deezer, any of those platforms, make sure you hit that follow button. If you happen to be watching this on the YouTubes, hit that red subscribe button, that bell right beside it. You get notified every time we drop a new episode. If you want to listen to these all in the same place, just and in order, go to brokersopenpodcast.com. We drop some downloads and open up some groups in there every now and then where we talk about some really cool real estate stuff, absolutely for free.
Yep.
Guys, you know what Brokers Open Podcast, or BOP,
right,
as we call it, here in the office, is all about. It is not just about open houses. What's it about, Matt?
It's about open minds.